I've had AFL players, I've had AFLW players, I've had State League players, I've had some of the best draftees you can imagine. I've had AFL and AFLW coaches on the show. I've had player managers, list managers, you name it. But right now, I have one of the most popular ever AFL social media people. Some people may call him Tom Greene's best friend, but I call him the GWS social media content manager, Jacob Gaynor. Jacob, thanks for coming on.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me. Beautiful introduction.
No worries. Thank you very much. Now, tell us, Jacob, about your journey into getting into the social media side of things at a lower level than building your way up to the Giants.
Yeah, so I think for me, it started pretty young. I was lucky and fortunate enough to kind of always have an idea of what I wanted to do. And I grew up wanting to be an author or a journalist. And then as I grew older, social media became a little bit more prevalent and a career path. It was relatively new, but a lot of people were kind of going down that pathway. So once I left school, I went to the University of Canberra and studied sports media and communications, which was a new degree that I think I was one of the first classes to go through. And my best mate, Tom Hore, he played for the Canberra Demons in the NEAFL competition, which now don't exist. But was fortunate enough to work with them for 2.5 years. And then, halfway through uni, the AFL offered me a job in Sydney, and I took that and did a COVID season. And then from there, the Giants offered me a role there, and I've been there ever since and absolutely love it.
That's good. Now, we'll mention Tom Hore a little later on, but obviously, Jacob, you've been in the Giants now for, was it 4 years now, in your 4th year now? How have you enjoyed your time so far at the club?
Yeah, love it. I don't think I could speak highly enough of the club and the organisation and the people there. I love it. It's the club that I think it's the perfect match for what I wanted to do, and I've got such a nice creative license and creative freedom to kind of experiment and do things a little bit differently that I don't necessarily think every other club would give me. So yeah, very fortunate and very lucky to be there.
That's good. Obviously, Jacob, with the role that you do, obviously you try and obviously make the engagement up and everything like that. I feel like a lot of clubs, maybe not so much this year, but before this year, a lot of clubs, weren't really engaging in the back and forth. Was that something you thought you could try and take advantage of? And now everyone's starting to copy your role in a way in terms of how they go online.
Yeah, I think so. It's been an interesting, I guess, 18 months for our club in terms of social media and trying to engage those other clubs. And you're right, some clubs choose not to engage in it, and that's completely fine. Every club has a different strategy and a different way of going about it. And I love the engagement. I think social media is such an amazing platform for clubs to have a little bit more personality and interact with each other. And there's been a few good examples of the clubs engaging this year, and hopefully it continues.
So the Giants Swans rivalry, I know it's a tough time what happened on the weekend, but that rivalry is always so fierce, Jacob. Do you get great satisfaction in general as a whole, like when you face the Swans every time that you do, knowing that they're your biggest rivals, and if you do get one up on the other, you got a great post coming their way?
I do. Unfortunately, we haven't beaten them this year, so fingers crossed we get to see them in the grand final again and get one over them. But no, it's I think the players say the same thing. It's almost a fixture that you look forward to the most, especially for the Giants. It's still a relatively new rivalry, but it's no doubt one of the biggest. And I think by the weekend you could see just what it meant to the crowd and to New South Wales, and it was one of the greatest games I've ever been a part of and ever seen. And I take great pride in the rivalry and playing a role to establish it within New South Wales. I think I grew up a mad Swans fan, so
okay.
It's a little bit interesting being on the other side now, and I'm very happy on the Orange team. So it's good fun to poke fun at them.
That's for sure. And I mean, now you just mentioned there about barracking for the Swans. So was it like when you first got the role, were you like interested to see how it would work, considering you're probably going to have to obviously talk more about your club that you supported, but now your rival in a way?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't necessarily love the Giants when they came in because I was such an avid Swans fan, and I guess that's where the rivalry for me started. I was on the Swans side of things, and then as soon as I joined the Giants, it didn't take long to get me fully converted. I think for me, there was a moment in 2021, which was my first season at the club, where we played an elimination final in Tasmania, and not one part of me wanted the Swans to win. And that's kind of just when I realised that I was a Giant through and through. And even after my days at the Giants are done, I think I'll forever be a Giants man now.
That's good. Obviously, where did you feel, Jacob, though, that the post started blowing up for you online for the Giants socials? What do you think was the exact post that got you off to where you've now getting talked about a lot now?
It's a great question. I don't know if
Mm.
there was like a moment that really
Yeah.
instigated it all. I think there was a little bit of a turning point for the club at the end of 2022 when Leon Cameron left and we had a new coach come in, and that was kind
Mhm.
of an opportunity for us to have a fresh start. And
Mm.
to Adam Kingsley's credit, he came in and wanted to see what we were capable of producing and doing things differently and helping the club stand out. So I think the first real example I have is of the 2022 draft when we took Aaron Cadman and Darcy Jones and players like that, which was obviously a super exciting draft for us. Having picked
Mm.
one, all eyes were on us. So we kind of ran with that, and from there it was just we had some fun over the draft and did some content where we had a breakfast with all the parents of the new players after, and they were asking what's the next post, what's the next funny thing you're going to do, and it kind of just
Yeah,
launched from there, I guess.
that's right. How important do you feel social media engagement needs to be? Because obviously, as we mentioned before, about some clubs aren't as involved in it as some do, and you want to stay on top of it. So, from a posting point of view, Jacob, how regular do you feel like you need to post to keep that engagement up, but then also thinking not to flood it with just random stuff to make every post mean something?
Yeah, another good question. I don't necessarily have a blueprint for what to post and what not to post and when to post. I obviously there's times that I think more people are online and will engage with our content, but for me, it's kind of just posting what I think people want to see. So on a game
Mm.
day, we could post from 5 times to 20 times. It just kind of depends what it is and what happens. And for me, I want the club page and the club platforms to be the first place you go to look for
Mm.
breaking news or for a big mark or a big goal. So you got to do that quite frequently. And if we win, people want to see more and more what's happening behind the scenes, and they want to see more
Mm.
fun and engaging content. So I don't necessarily think I have a rule about what to post, when to post, but I kind of just play it by ear and by traction. And if posts are doing well, then we're doing the right thing.
So, do you feel like some posts, hypothetically, I'm just thinking of someone off the top of your head, like when players have a re-signing of a contract, especially ones that get talked about, from the outside, where you might see journos say things like, "Oh, this player may leave," and then they're not leaving, and then you got like a tease post saying you have a date or a timestamp, and you have, say, for example, Darcy Jones, you might put a photo of a helmet or something, and people can connect the dots there. Do you feel like posts like that also help things like that go up as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us, one of our key um, objectives at the club is to build player profiles. And your example with
Mm.
Darcy, people automatically link a helmet with him. So when
Mm.
he re-signed, putting out the helmet kind of gets people thinking, what could it be? Normally, it is a contract, and
Yeah.
just little things like that that get people talking before the actual content. People are floating around your page waiting for something.
Mm.
It just drives engagement, which I love the teaser concept and putting things like that out. I think it's great.
Yeah. Do you like being known publicly, Jacob? Because you could go through a whole range of other clubs, social media people, and no one would really know, no disrespect to them. No one really knows who they are to their name. But for you, everyone knows your name, your face, and everything. How were you first off, Jacob, when you had got your name out there a bit more? And do you love engaging in it now? I'm sure, clearly.
Yeah, it's a funny one. It's not really a common thing for someone in my role to be somewhat known. I wouldn't say I'm well known. I'd say I'm
Mhm.
known. No, it is interesting, and I've had some funny experiences already of people asking for photos or autographs,
Yeah.
or choosing to grab a photo with me over Tom Greene was quite funny. But
Yeah.
it is strange. I like it. It's an opportunity to meet people, and I love engaging with the Giants fans and AFL fans in general. And obviously, there's both ends of it. You have people that aren't the biggest fan of your work and like to tell you, which
Mm.
is I find quite funny and humorous. But
Yeah.
no, it is. Yeah, it is weird, but you get used to it a little bit, and then now it's just
Mm.
a way for me to meet people, and people have ideas that they love to share with me, which is one of my favorite things. So, no, I thoroughly enjoy it.
So I'm the same, obviously in a different level, obviously, clearly, but I'm in the same. Like I was like you, it was a bit interesting. Like I'll go to games, I'll go for St Kilda, and or not even St Kilda games, just out in general. We go, oh, Scoops or Cooper, whatever they want to call him, a nickname or a real name. It's like it's like, yeah, can we have a photo? Of course, and like yourself, it's interesting, and you have people around you that you thought, oh, I thought you were going to go to them, but no, you choose me. I think it makes it show that what you're doing is working. Yes, there's haters, and trust me, I know all about that, and so do you. But it's nice to know that there's people that actually care and like what you do.
Absolutely, and I think social media is still relatively new in the landscape of Australian sport and AFL. So to have creators and like yourself out there, I think it's a great thing for the game.
Now, tell us a bit about your relationship with Tom Greene. Obviously, you do your own podcast at the Giants as well. What kind of was one of your first connections with Tom Greene and kind of built to where you got a good friendship, and you now have that podcast as well?
It's funny. Everyone that's from Canberra, they say everyone in Canberra knows each other, and for Tom and I, it kind of worked out that way. We went to school together at Morris College, Canberra, and grew up together. Tom played footy with my brother, and went through the ranks together. And I knew Tom, all the way through. And when he got drafted, I was at the AFL, so we connected a bit through that. And then when I went to the Giants, it was kind of just like nothing had changed really. He was never really Tom Greene to me. He was just Tom from school. Which kind of kept our relationship pretty normal. And from there, he's obviously one of the best players in the competition, if not top 5 players in the competition. And he's an incredibly intelligent young person who loves to voice his opinion and has great opinions. And he's a very interesting person. So I think it kind of works well that we could have that relationship where it's not just a media person and a player. It's just two friends that love footy and want to talk about the game, want to talk about life in general, and promote the Giants at the same time. So it kind of just worked pretty well.
That's right. You mentioned too about voicing his opinions, and I love that your own podcast with Tom. You speak what you want to say. Obviously, there's limits and everything like that, but you say what you want to say. And I love that players like Tom and others that do speak open. I don't like sometimes when you're forced to say the generic lines, stuff like that. I like that Tom has that mindset where say what you want, and obviously within however you have to say it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's quite good at it, and you're right. You've got to be careful every now and then, but he's not just going to give you your media trained answers. He's going to express exactly how he feels, which I think's only a good thing.
That's right. I love that. I'm not going to get into the previous incidents, but as I said, I love the way he goes. But now, speaking of Tom Greene, you mentioned about being the top 5 player in the competition. I feel the same. I have yearly for the last 4 years have my what I call the Scoops medal. It's like the Brownlow version, basically. And coincidentally, this is not why I reached out to you, but here's the graphic up here. He actually won my Scoops medal at the start of the year, and now some people, so obviously you got Treloar, Dacos, Neil, and Heaney around there as well. But I feel like probably one of the most underrated players in the competition. I've been saying this for a fair while, so this is not because you're on here. I feel like he doesn't get appreciated as much. And there's a lot of certain players, Jacob, I feel like, Tom Greene, like Adam Treloar's and guys like that, people would say, they're just accumulators and they do no damage, and they always bring up the certain names. Why do you feel that you have Tom in that conversation for being the top player as well?
Yeah, I think he's definitely in the conversation. It's funny players outside Victoria getting recognised, and I think if Tom was at a Victorian club, he'd be spoken about a lot more than he is. But no, he's not just an accumulator. And I think we've seen that a lot this year. That he's capable of some pretty special things, and people forget how young he is as well. He's only ever going to get better. So no, it's exciting for Tom and exciting for the Giants to have him.
That's right, very underrated. I mean, that's why I showed him. When I do my own votes and everything like that, just shows how much I value him as well. It's not just an accumulator. You get all the clearances, wins games of his own boot. I'm pretty sure, I don't know the exact game it was, but it was very recent when he kicked the winning goal in the home and away game. So it just shows that what people say is just the accumulator is just rubbish talk, really. Now, another Tom, your good mate, Tom Hore, obviously used to play at the Saints, plays for Port Melbourne now in the VFL. How did that friendship start, and how do you feel that he's gone in his footy journey?
It's interesting. Tom and I are actually cousins. We're also best friends, but so I didn't really have a choice with a relationship with him. Our mums are sisters, but no, Tom's footy journey's been pretty interesting, and I've been pretty lucky to be a pretty big part of it. And he was a really talented junior who obviously missed out on the draft when he was 18 through a few issues and glandular fever and the likes, and played in the NEAFL competition, as we mentioned at the start, with the Canberra Demons, and then went across to Adelaide for a year and had a really good year, and almost needed to get out of that New South Wales, Canberra environment to be recognised, and he was pretty much straight away, and landed himself at St Kilda for 3 years. So he's had a pretty special journey, and very, very privileged to be part of it, and loved where he's been and loved where he's going to go.
Now, last year, I believe it was last year's trade period after what happened with Tom's situation at St Kilda, and there was a little bit of talk, I feel like, of him being linked to the Giants, and obviously he's been good mates. Now, there was one story I do remember you posting where you were at the headquarters with Tom intentionally in the photo, Jacob. Was that intentional because of the talk?
It was. I was, it was a little bit of a rumor. I probably was a pretty big catalyst in driving that rumor because I would have
Yes.
loved to see him at the Giants.
Mm.
No, that was just Tom was actually staying up the road with the Saints at the time
Okay.
for a game there, and obviously work out there. And we caught up for dinner in the area, and he was walking in front of the Giants logo. So I thought it'd be quite funny to get a video and then post it during the trade period. Unfortunately, didn't really turn out that way, and he stayed in Victoria, but that was quite funny.
That's right. Now, obviously, with your social media content, you always got to try and step up your game all the time, Jake. When you're doing that really well, what's some content ideas or things you got planned for? Hopefully, more than the next week.
Yeah, it certainly is an exciting time. I think last year was my first real finals campaign where we played more than just a game or two, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I love the fact that most eyes, the majority of eyes, are on your team and your content, which I think is really cool, and almost take pride in that and producing content that fans want to see, and content that's different. I think we've seen Hawthorn do it this year as well, just different content that stands out, and I love seeing that, and I love seeing what clubs do. So I think finals is certainly an exciting time for clubs, and there's a few things I've got in the back pocket. I won't give too much away, but fingers crossed our September journey continues all the way to the big dance, and we can produce some good content along the way.
That's good. You mentioned with the Hawks obviously stepping up their game. Do you feel like more clubs do need to step up their game overall as well in that social media side of things?
Yeah, it's funny. I think obviously clubs, every club has a media department that's got a different strategy and are trying to do different things. It's funny, the Hawks have kind of lent one way, and it's obviously working for them, and they've had a great year, and success is a major factor in the content. And I know that firsthand. Like, we were almost Hawthorn last year, I guess, riding that wave of momentum when you're not necessarily meant to be there. And no, it's exciting, and they've produced some amazing stuff this year, and no doubt that they'll continue to do it if they get over Port this weekend.
How deep is the Battle of the Bridge Derby, Jake? Obviously, you said you used to barrack for the Swans, now being on the Giants side, and you won't turn back. How deep is that rivalry? We kind of seen that a little bit on the weekend.
It's an interesting one. I think, firstly, both clubs really do respect each other at the end of the day. I think, the Swans have been here for 40 years or whatever it is, and really paved the way for AFL to grow and flourish in New South Wales, and then we've come in a different market that the Swans aren't in, and doing it our way. So I think, naturally, when you're not completely aligned with what you're doing and what you need to do, you're going to butt heads. But there is a tremendous amount of respect there, and I think we saw that at the end of the game. And I think if you walked around the streets, I think a lot of people in New South Wales would love to see a Sydney Derby grand final. I think on the weekend it was just an incredible game, and an incredible testament to how far the game's come in New South Wales. The crowd was one of the best crowds I've ever seen or heard. So no doubt the teams on the field don't like each other when the siren goes, but no, it is about respect, and hopefully the rivalry continues to get a little bit deeper and flourish, and we get some more games like that because it produces some amazing footy.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned if it potentially lands into the grand final for both sides, it'll make, I think that could even catapult it even more. And I feel like that game on the weekend kind of saved the round, if I'm being brutally honest. Port got smashed, and Hawthorn were in control for most of that game. And then the Brisbane game was what it was. So I feel like you kind of saved the final series for the first week.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. It was definitely the game of the round, if not one of the games of the season. So, fingers crossed we get to do it again.
So, now obviously Cooper Hamilton, he's known to be a current player, but obviously he's known for all these jokes he does online and all these skits that he does. Obviously you get a big part in all that. How impressive you have been with Cooper in that role, footy aside, and are you worried post footy for him that he might try and compete for your role, or at least co-host to a degree as well?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting post footy career what he does. And fortunately for me, he's very young, so he's got a lot of footy yet to be played.
Yes.
But no, he's so good. He's so passionate in the media space, and he's so good at it. We've actually got another Cooper video coming out this week, which is exciting
Oh, yeah.
for Giants fans. Won't be too mean or poke fun at too many people, but it's always in good spirit. And no, he's brilliant and very talented on and off the field. So fingers crossed we get to produce a little bit more content with Cooper moving forward.
So that'll be very interesting to see. What is it day to day for you, Jacob? Like,
I think that's one of the best parts of the job is that no day is really the same.
Yeah.
Every day is a little bit different, and it also depends on time of year as well. So at the moment, we've got obviously the boys playing finals footy, and the girls' season's just started as well. So
yeah,
working between both programs at the moment and juggling that, which is always a challenge, but it's super fun, and both groups are so unique. So I think that's the perfect little balance. And we also have, I think we're the only team left in the competition that has a netball team as well. So when they're in season, it is quite busy and quite full on, but it's a great buzz and a great environment to be at, be around. So day to day, yeah, normally get in, and the week's normally pretty similar. You get in early in the week and get out the content from the game that you've just played and kind of plan the week ahead, because every week's different. So there's new opposition, new milestones, new contract announcements, new things that drop, which is my favorite part of the role. I think you get to always have new experiences, and there's always new stories to tell.
That's all right. And you mentioned there about engaging with both the men's and women's programs. Also, as you mentioned, the AFLW starting on the weekend, I've covered that as well, obviously, and then was at the Giants game on the weekend. What the differences do you feel between the two clubs in terms of yourself personally when you kind of like engage with some players, whether that's through content or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's different. I think both programs, they really, especially in our club and in our market in Western Sydney, they both programs really understand and respect the significance of media and what it does for the club and in growing their own profiles, but also the club's profile. So they're always willing to do things. I think, we walked around the club and filmed a Cooper video yesterday, and the boys were asking what the jokes were and if they could play a part. And we got Jesse Hogan involved for some of it, which was quite funny. And the girls are the exact same. They always have ideas and want to bring content and do things differently. They might look at other clubs and, can we do this? Or maybe we should draw some inspiration from this, which I think is great because, everyone consumes media, especially young people. So, they're great. Couldn't speak more highly of them.
That's good. So obviously, you had a recent episode. Obviously, you had called Matt Flynn. Obviously, with the story of that. Tell us a bit about that and showed what a great connection Matt has with Tom. Obviously being a different club. As you're coming to watch your game on the weekend. Tell us a bit about that episode in particular.
Yeah, well, I think firstly, one of the great things about the Giants is we do have such a strong culture where it is a family, and being in the market we're in, compared to your WA, SA or Victorian clubs, is a lot of the players aren't from Western Sydney or from Sydney in general. A lot of players come from rural New South Wales or Victoria, Queensland, WA, Adelaide, etc. So you kind of are forced to become a family here, and which is a great thing and in a great environment. But when players, and it's it's what happens in the game. It's people leave the club for opportunity or whatnot, and that's one of the sad realities of footy. But I think one of the great things about the Giants is everyone stays connected. And a lot of the boys are still really close to Tim Taranto and Jeremy Cameron and players like that might have moved on. And Flinny's no different to them. So yesterday on our podcast, we kind of just wanted to highlight. We were talking about mental health in young men and how important it is to tell your mates that you love them and kind of remove that stigma around men's mental health. And I challenged Tom to call one of his mates and tell him that he loves him, and he chose Flinny, and Flinny answered, and it was one of the most wholesome calls I've ever been a part of. Credit to Flinny for letting us put it online as well. I think it was really powerful. So it was no doubt a little special moment, and I think it does speak volumes to the culture that the Giants have built.
Very good. Now that was when I saw that, so that was just great, seeing testament to you both for doing that and running with that idea. Now, in terms of getting players involved, Jacob, on episodes for the podcast and everything like that, do you feel like a lot of players these days are more willing to come on said podcasts? And do you try and nudge a few of them that maybe, like not so keen on it, to try and get them on? And is there some that you've kind of converted to, may not have been interested at one point, but now they love it purely for the fact of they've seen what you've done and what other people do nowadays?
Yeah, great question. I think it's interesting because it becomes a bit more of a conversation rather than an interview. And like these players, they do so many interviews and radio requests and TV appearances that it kind of becomes like a little bit robotic, and they always they have those traditional media answers. Whereas just sitting in a couple of chairs with myself and Tom, they can kind of be themselves and relax a little bit. And I think we've seen that with Brent Daniels. He really was he was one of our best guests this year, and not too many people would know he's actually a very funny guy. So he was really good. Jack Buckley is probably our best guest. He's just he's funny, and him and Tom clash all the time, which is hilarious. So to put a mic in front of them is great. So yeah, I think a few players would be hesitant to come on because they don't know. Obviously we're very light-hearted most of the time, so we're going to pick on them. So they're hesitant to come on, but yeah, a lot of boys want to come on, and I think that's the great thing is that there's so many players to get through, and everyone has such a unique story that we can use the podcast platform to tell. Yeah, hopefully we get a few more, and hopefully we get a few more big dogs on soon too.
That's right. Is there any particular players you've got in mind, Jacob, that you're trying to get on that either aren't so willing to come on right now, or just someone in general that you feel like could be a big guest to come on, or another big guest, I should say?
Yeah, from the club, I'd love to get Toby on. He's pretty keen. We actually haven't asked him to come on yet, which I think he's pretty filthy about. So maybe we'll wait till, fingers crossed, we make the grand final, and then we can grab him on grand final week. Jesse Hogan, he's a hard man to catch. We've tried a couple of times to get Hogs, and he keeps agreeing, but then he goes home early. So no, hopefully Hogs and Toby can come on soon. But no, there's a few names that you'd love to get. Josh Kelly has been on. We'd love to get him again. Stephen Cornelio, Lockie Whitfield. Yeah, there's so many people we'd love to get through.
That's right. Nothing worse though, isn't it? And I know firsthand with the same type of answers, but you mentioned there with Jesse, so this is not just about Jesse, just people in general. They say yes, I'll come on, and then they don't, or don't want to, or try to avoid it.
Yeah, they're hard to track down, some people, but you got to just stay persistent, and then you'll get them eventually.
That's right, exactly. Now, obviously, some players at the club, just from a footy side of things, Jacob, but who do you feel are some players that are kind of flown under the radar a little bit for the Giants that have gone up to levels that, at least from a public eye, people may not have expected, that you're really impressed with how they've gone on the field?
Yeah, another good question. I think there's a few that stand out straight away. We mentioned Jack Buckley. I think he should be regarded as one of the, if not the best defender in the competition. Obviously, we have Sam Taylor as well.
Yes.
And those two together, they're just absolutely like key pillars of the Giants backline and what we represent as a footy club. And, Bucks is one of the best players I've come across, but he's also one of the greatest people I've come across. I think we saw it firsthand on the weekend with the Isaac Heaney situation. He helped Isaac land pretty safely, which is just a testament to the person Bucks is. And another one back there, probably Connor Iden. I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. He's had a phenomenal 2-3 year period at the Giants, and he's one of our most important players. But honestly, you could go across the board. I think being in the market that we're in, unless you're Jesse Hogan winning a Coleman medal or Toby Greene becoming All-Australian captain, you're not really getting the recognition you might get if you're in a larger footy market. So yeah, you could look across the board and say James Peatling's not recognised enough, or even Brent Daniels. This is probably the first year that people have really started to recognise him as a genuine star of the competition. So for years before that, he was doing the exact same thing, but only started to get recognised now. So yeah, you could look across the board, but there's plenty of them.
So you mentioned there about James Peatling, and obviously from a contract point of view, he's obviously got some suitors, but that's just a credit to him for how, his work's been this year, especially in the back half of this year. He's been good the whole year, but when he's been away from being the sub, and playing more midfield, he seemed to have flourished in that role. And it's a credit to him to play in a midfield that has got stars everywhere.
Absolutely. He's had a fantastic couple of years, JP. He's had to really chip away at it and play a lot of VFL footy and kind of do a little bit of an apprenticeship. And you're right, like it's a star-studded midfield that's extremely hard to break into. And he's done a great job at putting his foot in the door now. And now he's in the midfield, and he played well on the weekend again. And he's no doubt a star for the future.
Now, tell us a little bit about Toby Greene, the person. Obviously, people know what a star he is on field, and obviously a while back before he was captain, people have more said him, not me, but other people in general would say more he's a player that, will tread a fine line in terms of getting suspended a lot, and then that the boot thing, but whether that was a whole story for another day. But, he's obviously progressed to be a star player in the competition, obviously. And the person, Toby, what's he like behind the scenes?
He's, you might not, you probably don't assume that he's funny. He's one of the funniest people I've ever met. He's just very unapologetically himself, which I think is a true testament to his character. He's he's one of the people I'm closest with at the club. He's got time for everyone, always willing to have a chat. He's a funny man. He just whatever he thinks he says, to be honest, and that's one of the best things we love about him. And yeah, it's funny. I've only been at the club a short period of time, 4 years, and he's been here since the start, obviously. So even talking to people that have been around a lot longer than me, he's come such a long way in terms of his leadership. And yeah, you're right. He's kind of transformed his reputation as the AFL bad boy to last year he was the All Australian captain. Which if you said that 5-6 years ago, you wouldn't have believed anyone. So testament to him, and he's now got a lovely little family, a young daughter as well. And yeah, it's funny seeing all those boys as dads now. It's cute, and no, he's an amazing person.
And so I can back up with what you said with Toby. I know I've actually spoken. I've never said this publicly. I've spoken to him a fair few times online. Has time for you. He'll get back to you when when he sees it. And I met him at the Footy Fest at the grand final of the MCG last year. Obviously, spoke to him for a little bit, and he's got a time for everyone, and it's just great to see. I think player engagement, Jacob, too, is very important. I ask a lot of players this that are in their draft years, etc. How important a conversation can be with a fan or someone in a position like myself on podcasting and everything like that. It kind of shows they may not think this individually, but it actually means a lot more than they feel. A little engagement, a 2-minute conversation, a message back, liking someone's post can do for someone to boost their confidence or, just make them feel good about themselves.
No, you're absolutely right. We do a media training every year with the playing group, both AFLW and AFL, and remind them of exactly that. I think a lot of them when they come into the system, they kind of forget what it was like to be a fan because that's their day-to-day life that they kind of push away from footy a little bit, and that's their job now, and they don't necessarily interact with it too much. But yeah, I think a lot of our players are really good at it, but could do better as well across the whole AFL. Is that you kind of forget what a simple like on Instagram can do to a kid. I think even me growing up, I obviously was really passionate in the media space, and I remember Lewis Jetta was my favorite player, and I made a little video about Lewis Jetta. I think it's just highlights put together, and he reached out and said he loved the video, and honestly, probably the reason I'm here today, just absolutely drove me to keep going. So yeah, you're right. It's a really powerful thing, and I think that's what one of the great things about social media now is it is such a tool for players and fans to connect, even if it's just a simple like.
That's right, exactly. And this is a prime example. I met Zali Goldsworthy, obviously the star, rising star last year for the Giants girls, and met her at the grand final last year. Spoke to a good 5-10 minutes. Just shows what a great person she is. And there's plenty of other examples I could give, but one I could mention on the top of my head. What a great person. And then I met her at the game last week. She remembered who I am. I spoke to her a little bit online, so just shows what a great person she is. And someone like Mon Conti as well, one of the best players in the AFLW as well. She follows my page. I spoke to her again on the weekend. She knew who I was. It's just great, hearing this. Like in your mind, you might think they know, but to hear it just shows a lot more than they may feel, and those two in particular are ripper people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the rivalries, obviously, you've got the Swans and the Giants, but Jake, what would you say is the club's other biggest rivalry? Is it the Western Bulldogs?
Good question. I don't think it is really the Western Bulldogs. I think there's that was certainly an interesting era for both teams, and there definitely was a rivalry. And I think if you look back to 2015, 2016, 2017, that era, there was no doubt a rivalry, and both teams didn't necessarily like each other too much. But I think the playing lists for both clubs have just changed so much now that there's certainly not the same level of rivalry. I think there's still certainly a rivalry there. We're still a relatively young club that are trying to develop these rivalries, and I would say the Bulldogs is definitely up in the top 2 or 3. But not quite the same as it once was, but yeah, definitely there.
Is there a team outside of the Swans that you get great satisfaction out of beating, and a certain team that you like to wait for your post-game post in particular, Jacob, that you feel like once you beat them, this meme or whatever you're going to put out, is it just extra satisfaction for you personally at least?
Yeah, I think Collingwood. It's an easy answer. They've got a very passionate fan base and a very big fan base, which is a testament to that footy club. And their fans might not see eye to eye with me or what we do, but no, I think that's certainly the club we love to beat. And unfortunately, they got the edge over us in the prelim last year by a point and let us know about it. So we had to return the favour opening round this year. And
Yes.
no, it's always good for engagement with the Collingwood fans.
That's right. And it just shows, like people tell me, that you've made it. If you're getting people all that hating on what you do.
Exactly.
That's very good. Now, if you could steal one player, Jacob, from another AFL or AFLW club to join the Giants, who would you like to poach and why?
Ooh, great question. I'd love to choose. I really do like what Hawthorn are doing. I love their celebrations, and I think it makes for me selfishly social media a lot easier when you have players doing that kind of thing, and
Yes.
those big personalities. So a Jack Ginnivan or a Nick Watson would be highly entertaining. Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question. And then there's the other side. You'd love to bring Jack Steele back home, or someone
yes.
like. I know you're a Saints fan, so you probably wouldn't like to let Jack leave. But
No.
yeah, I'd love to say. I'm going to say. I'm going to say Jack Higgins. I'd love to see Jack Higgins in the orange.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Funnily enough, you mentioned those two, and they both know who I am full well. And with my Goal King challenges, Jacob, that I do, there's always always gets criticised, not so much, but a little bit about him doing the snap kicks from 40 meters out or something like that. So every time I do a Goal King challenge, it's one spot on the left flank that he always does that snap around the body, and I kind of got inspiration from that. And speaking to him a while back, that was something that I'd like to do with Steely as well. A ripper bloke, as you would know, and yeah, would never want to lose him again. Not again, but lose him. But yeah, Ripper Bloke, I met Steely a bunch of times. Two great people. Coincidental that you mentioned those two, because they're both fantastic players and people.
Exactly. So they'd fit right in.
Exactly, they would. Now I've got a few more for you, Jake. So I do really appreciate you coming on. If you were in charge of the AFL and you could make the rules, obviously there's some rule changes that people, scoff over from whether it's media, clubland, or just fans in general. What are some rules overall in the competition, whether it's on-field rules or off-field rules, that you would like to change? If you're the CEO, you're the Gillon McLaughlin for the day, who are you choosing? Oh, Andrew Dillon now. What rules are you changing or removing?
Ooh, good question. I don't know why my mind went straight to the sub rule. I'd get rid of the sub. Just put five on the bench, I think. Pretty boring answer, to be honest.
No, common answer.
Yeah, not sure. Not really that jumps out. I can't really think of what's a little bit controversial at the moment.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, so I'll go get rid of the sub.
That's good. Now, are you involved with AFL Supercoach, Fantasy, any of those type of games?
I used to be quite a bit growing up. I loved it. Haven't done it the last few years just because there's too much work to do in the AFL rather than that. But yeah, no, I do keep an eye on it, and I know a lot of the boys love keeping an eye on it as well. So it's quite interesting, but don't play it at the moment.
That's fair enough. All right. So the reason I asked you this is which players at the club would pick themselves, whether they're good, whether they're injured, whether they're a key defender that doesn't get points to score, who would be the ones that pick themselves?
I know exactly who do pick themselves. I think Tom Greene picks himself.
Rightfully so.
He'd captain himself as well, I reckon. Lockie Whitfield would pick himself.
Yeah.
Josh Kelly would pick himself. And I dare say Toby Greene would pick himself as well, I reckon.
But you probably picked the four most popular Supercoach options for the Giants, and all four would warrant it. And Tom Greene, I mean, he's been in my team. I mean, he just won my medal. So, yeah, a guy that all warrant, I feel, to pick themselves.
Exactly.
All very, very good players. Now, Jacob, the last one for you, so appreciate coming on. So, if you could, in an ideal world, map out the rest of your footy career as a social media player, a person at the Giants, what are some long-term goals that you haven't got so far that you would love to end up doing?
Yeah, great question. I don't know if there's necessarily like an end goal that I'd like to get to. I think we're always just aspiring to grow the game and grow the club, and that's my role. And I think we've seen in the last 24 months or so that what we're doing is working. So hopefully that continues to work, and we continue to engage people and have a bit more fun with social media and really showcase our personality as a club and do things a little bit differently. And So I'd say the goal is just to keep growing, and I just want to make the Giants the biggest club they can be, and get people through the door and become members and come to games and build something pretty special, because it's quite unique being at the youngest club, and obviously with Tassie coming in, that's a different challenge for them as well. So I think just making the club as big as it could be, that's the goal.
So, Jacob, it's been a pleasure having you on. And now everyone would know that knows me knows I would never change teams. But since St Kilda are eliminated, I'm on the orange team, which you know where that's come from. Hopefully the Giants can get the victory on the weekend, and then hopefully the 2 weeks after that. Jacob, it's been a pleasure having you on, and all the best for the team for the rest of the season.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.